All right, we welcome the internet. If my voice goes out, I apologize to you. I'll try to doctor it up as I go, but I had a little sinus infection. But in Genesis 26, verse 1, there was a famine in the land besides the first famine that was in the days of Abraham. And Isaac went unto Abimelech, king of the Philistines, unto Gerar. And the Lord appeared unto him and said, Go not down into Egypt, dwell in the land which I shall tell thee of. Sojourn in this land, and I will be with thee, and will bless thee, and for unto thee and unto thy seed I will give all these countries, and I will perform the oath which I swear unto Abraham thy father. Now, there's a lot of things that God talked to Abraham about. Hold here just a minute, go to Genesis 12. He talked to Abraham about a lot of things. In Genesis 12, look with me at verse 1. And the Lord had said unto Abram, Get thee out of thy country and from thy kindred and from thy father's house into the land that I will show thee. Now this is before Abraham's name has been changed. The reference is, don't get me wrong, but when he told him his name was Abram, he told him to get out and go down here. And of course later on he's changed his name to Abraham. And I will make of thee a great nation. I will bless thee and make thy name great, and thou shalt be a blessing. And I will bless them that bless thee, and curse him that curseth thee, and in thee shall all families of the earth be blessed. Correct? Now, terminology in the Bible, you have families, you have nations, you have people. Those are words that are used by God, and a lot of times they have different settings and different meanings. But here it's families, right? All right, he said, I will bless them that bless thee, and curse him that curseth thee. And in thee shall all families of the earth be blessed. All right, now turn to Genesis 17. And this is where the covenant comes in, one of the covenants. You look at Paul's writings, especially Ephesians, strangers from the covenants of promise. Promise is related in Abraham. Just about everything's laid out in Abraham because it begins with Abraham. And we'll look at this in Genesis 26 in just a second. Abraham, most everything was promised in him. I mean, he's a very important individual in this Bible. He's not our father. You understand, we're Gentiles. Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. The races of men come out of Noah, Shem, Ham, and Japheth. Japheth is the Gentiles. Shem is the Jewish individual, Shemites. And Shemites, and great hatred for them in the world because they're God's people. And the hatred comes from the God's world because all the promises are given to them in this. I'm not going to ramble, but I got some things I want to say to you. Abraham is known by the God of this world as blessed. In other words, Romans 4, Abraham believed God and it was imputed to him for righteousness. Abraham was a very important man in God's word because whatever God promises Abraham, will he do it one time or another? It doesn't matter. It doesn't have to be done right then. I was telling them today, you understand the word remnant. In the Bible, a remnant means a piece. Paige knows what I'm talking about. My wife knows about it. Any ladies in here know. A remnant is a piece of something. You could have a giant remnant or you could have a small remnant, right, Paige? I mean, it doesn't have a size limitation to it, but it's a remnant. If you had 40,000 square yards and only the remnant that you're going to get is 20,000, that's the difference, right? 20,000 difference. Okay, in Paul's writings, there's a remnant. But they're elect according to grace. And if by grace, it's no more works. But there is a remnant of Israel that not only will survive from the first century to now, they will go into the tribulation. God knows them. They will run. Jesus talked about it in Matthew 24 and 25. They never heard the gospel that you and I trust. They had their own thing. But they've never received not the love of the truth because they never heard it. They're the remnant that's going to go into the tribulation, and it's called Jacob's trouble. Jacob is the descendant of who? Abraham. Abraham, Isaac, Jacob. Jacob's name to change to Israel. So there's a remnant of Israel that will go into the tribulation, Jacob's trouble, and he will be saved out of it. Now, you can't get saved out of it unless you're in it. So they will go into the kingdom. But how will they go into the kingdom? Somebody will help them go into the kingdom. 10 men take hold of the skirt of a Jew and go in. That will be the sheep. The goats that hinder them will be in a judgment because they didn't bless them. And that is Matthew 25. It is based on Genesis 12. I'll bless who blesses thee and curse who curses thee. Then you get another blessing and a curse. In Genesis, well, I don't want to go there yet. In Genesis 17 and the other one I want to see if I can get them all together. All right, Genesis 17, the establishment of the covenant, okay? Now, do you believe that circumcision is important? Now, I didn't say for now. Do you believe it's important? Yeah. Absolutely. I mean, it's one of the foundation doctrines in this Bible, circumcision. Basically, circumcision was replaced with baptism, but the ones that were getting baptized were already circumcised. Does that make any sense to you? Because they're the house of Israel. A house of Israel is the circumcised individuals. They are in that covenant of Genesis 17. Now watch, in Genesis 17, verse 1, when Abram was 90 years old and 9, the Lord appeared to Abram and said unto him, I am the God, Almighty God, walk before me and be thou perfect. And I will make my covenant between me and thee, and multiply thee exceedingly. And Abram fell on his face, and God talked with him, saying, And as for me, behold, my covenant is with thee, and thou shalt be a father of many, what? Nations. Neither shall thy name be called any more Abram, but thy name shall be Abraham, for a father of many nations will have I made thee. Okay? Verse 7, I will establish my covenant between me and thee, and thy seed after thee, in his generations, for a what? An everlasting covenant, to be a God unto thee and to thy seed after thee. I will give unto thee and to thy seed after thee the land. Okay. In the covenant, what will be given to them? The land. So, obviously, if I read Matthew 5 and it said, Blessed are the meek, they shall inherit the earth, what can I bring to that? I mean, he didn't say heaven. He said what? Blessed are the meek, they shall inherit the earth. The earth is the land, right? So somewhere, somebody's going to inherit the land, ain't they? Correct? If I look at who's going to inherit the land and I find who's going to inherit the land, then I got to associate about what they are promised and the things involved with them, correct? So let's read on. And God said unto Abraham, Thou shalt keep my covenant therefore, and thy seed after thee in their generation. This is my covenant which ye shall keep between me and you, and thy seed after thee. Every man child among you shall be what? Okay? Paul said in Philippians 3, circumcised the 8th day. That was him. Was that a bragging right? Yes, it was. If a child 8 days old was not circumcised, he was a heathen. Then every uncircumcised individual that's not circumcised with the covenant of Abraham is what? Heathen. Well, that's us. We're heathen. We're not called Gentiles, nor are we called heathen in Paul's letters later. We're associated as members of the body of Christ. Neither Jew nor Greek, bond or free, male or female. We're all one in Christ, okay? In time past, we're Gentiles. See, the letter means exactly what it says in Ephesians 2. Wherefore remember that you being in time past Gentiles in the flesh, who are called uncircumcised, by that which is circumcised with hands, the Jews. That's why the Jews hated the Gentiles. They weren't in the covenant. They had no right to their God, the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. You see the anger there. They had a right to feel that way because God had told them this. All right, so they are told that. Now I want to go back to, if I can find what I want. Genesis 26. I got so many things running around this empty head, it's bouncing. In Genesis 26, verse 4 again. I will make thy seed to multiply as the stars of heaven, and I will give unto thy seed all these countries, and in thy seed shall all nations of the earth be blessed. Now I got to find out something that tells me something about this. Galatians 3. All right, and I want Deuteronomy 11, so I don't forget it. We'll turn there too. All right, now was a statement to Abraham in Genesis when he was Abram, I will bless who blesses thee, and curse who curses thee, and in thee shall all families of the earth be blessed, right? Yes. So this is a covenant blessing or curse. It's stated by God in Abraham, so it's going to be obvious, isn't it? If God was dealing with Israel, who is Abraham's seed, anytime he's dealing with Abraham, I'll bless who blesses thee and curse who curses thee. Correct? Okay, now Galatians chapter 3, we find why that Jesus hang on a tree. Now you know all this, I'm just having to go through it. In Galatians 3:10, for as many as of the works of the law are under curse. All right? Hold that just a second, go to Deuteronomy 11. What do you know about Deuteronomy? 10 Commandments, Deuteronomy 5, right? Isn't it amazing that we who are not under the law know where the law is, and people that say they're under the law don't know where the law is? It's amazing. I say, where is the 10 Commandments? Well, it's in the Bible. I said, yeah, that's fine, but where at? Well, it's in there. It's in the Old Testament somewhere. I said, do you keep them? Yes. What are they? Well, I know I do. No, you don't. All right, Deuteronomy 11, verse 26. Behold, I set before you this day a blessing and a curse. Bang. You just followed up Deuteronomy 5, the 10 Commandments, right? What did Deuteronomy chapter 6 tell me? Hold there, go to Deuteronomy 6. Verse 24. Deuteronomy 6 follows what chapter? What's in Deuteronomy 5? Okay. Verse 24. And the Lord commanded us to do all these statutes, to fear the Lord our God, for our good always. There you go, Dana. That's how you be good. Yeah. Not fine. That's right. Okay. To fear the Lord our God, for our good always. So, if they do it, what will be the consequences right now? I'm going to read on, but what's the consequences? It would be for their good, right? Okay? That he might preserve us, alive. Wow. Now, I don't know if you're going to get the gist of this. It'll be my fault if you don't. With all said and done of the Old Testament, there shouldn't be any Israel. Did you know that? The mercy of God helped them in their disobedience. Did they marry? Remember, the only restriction in the Bible is they're marrying us. Did they marry us?
Yes.
That's why it's hard to find a true Jew some days. You know what I'm saying? Did they do idolatry? Not tear it down.
Yes.
Did they utterly destroy the people that God put before them to destroy?
Yes.
Did they kill them all?
Yes.
Did they kill the Canaanites, the Hivites, the Jebusites?
Oh, no.
No. They married them. And they took their idols. If you learn your scriptures, you'll find that there was a woman stole an idol. Lot's daughter, wasn't it? Which one was it? I had a mind block. Which one stole when he took his wife, Rachel and Leah? It was Rachel, wasn't it? Stole the little idol from their father Laban, right?
Right.
And when Laban come to find it, she sat on it and said she was on her period. And so he didn't get to look. But she stole an idol, type like Israel, stealing idols and taking them with them. When they went out in the wilderness. And I mean, come on, folks. You've just seen the Red Sea part. You've seen the Egyptians killed behind you in the Red Sea. You've seen miraculous signs in Gershom where you lived in Egypt. And turn around and make a calf. I got to ask you a question, but like I said, I'm going to deal with some things, and I don't know what we'll get to, but when I was a boy, I never believed in idols, but I didn't know why. I never even was convicted to believe in them things, and they were all around me when I was a boy too. I mean, there's always been Hindu and Buddhist and other things like that, but the Catholic Church is full of them. And it's like, why would I fall down to that thing? But I didn't understand why. This is what ignorance is, folks. I didn't understand why. I had never read Psalm 115. Psalm 115 is very clear on that. Have you read Psalm 115? Do you know what I'm talking about? It's an open book test. Turn to Psalm 115 and see what it says. I didn't know that. See, until you get the Bible and read it or have somebody show it to you, you know what you're walking in. You're walking in ignorance, not stupidity. Well, there ain't nobody in this room I'd accuse of being stupid. But you walked in your life in ignorance, didn't you?
Sure.
You walked in ignorance to what God really says. The problem is you are never ignorant to good and evil. That's what entered the world. Why didn't God want them to eat the tree of knowledge of good and evil? Because with the knowledge of evil and good, you get judged. That's why Hebrews 9, it's appointed once for men to die, and after this the judgment. You're appointed judgment because you know the difference between good and evil. Say, how do you know that? Because Colossians chapter 1, verse 21, and you being alienating your minds by wicked works. In your mind, wicked works. Why does a child hide when he's done something wrong and he ain't been told it's wrong yet? Got a conscience. That's what you got. And it's the knowledge of good and evil. Israel's not unknowledgeable. What were they told not to do? Not to marry, not to give in marriage, not to do idolatry, tear it down, kill those people utterly. He said utterly destroyed. Do you understand? That's women, men, children, baby. It don't matter. I want them utterly destroyed. Why, God? Because they'll lead you away from me. If God created, He's got the right to hold on. Yea or nay?
Yes.
We are His possession. He let Satan in there, give him a choice. He's a free willer. You have a free will. But he's also possessionary. And the number one anger that God has is, thou shalt have no other God before thee. I am your God and Father. And he meant it. So, in my youth, I did what I was told in a church service. I come out of the pew. I walked down, because that's what you're supposed to do. The message was on hellfire and brimstone. Come up. I have no idea what the man said. My mama was crying. And he said, you come to get baptized. I guess that's right. Haven't you ever watched the Billy Graham crusades? They're laughing and kicking, but they're walking up. Just having a good time, Joe. Folks, the night I got saved, I wasn't laughing. And I wasn't telling jokes. It was serious as a heartbeat from hell. And I walked, okay. So he said, now you need to be baptized. We don't have a baptistry here. We'll take you down to the Church of Christ down there and get you baptized. Oh, I don't see how it ever affected me then. It can't be, it had to be null and void. But I didn't know, see, I didn't know nothing. That's what you're supposed to do. You did what you're supposed to do, didn't you? You went to church on Sunday because that was the Lord's day. You went into his house, and it wasn't his house. Most high dwelling on temples made with hands. 2 men said it in the Bible. I didn't know it. But there was something wrong with me. There was no peace about this, what I'd done. And at 16, I read Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John, and I could not read anymore. It was enough. My God, I ain't going to do any of this. I mean, I could read. And I read it. I did, pluck out your eye. Cut off your hand. What the heck? And then sell all that you have. I could read Luke 12:32. And I said, who's this little flock? I didn't know what I was reading. Don't you understand? You can read the Bible till the cows come home and not get it. You know, I can prove that to you. It's in 1 Peter chapter 1. Was the Spirit in Christ when the prophets wrote? When they wrote down the suffering and the glory that should follow, they looked at it and said, what does this mean? A prophet and didn't know what it meant? No, it's hid. But they wrote it. I mean, you ever took notes in college or high school and then read it and didn't have a clue what you wrote? I worked at Litton Microwaves many years ago. I was 22 years old. I worked there right before I went to work on the railroad. And you had to put a time card in to go to work. Old time card, you know. And I went in drunk one night. Put it in upside down. That should have been a symbol right there that the night was going to get rough. And the Litton company then had tapes. They're about that wide. That was the old computers. And this tape had holes. And it's like the old Commodore computer. And you put that in and it'd know, the drill bit would know where to cut the holes in the circuit board. I ruined, I don't know how many boards that night. Put the wrong tapes in. Luckily, my boss was a drunk. And he got me by and told me to go home. And I never saw any flack from that, but I wasn't there to stay anyway because I had my application and the railroad's fixing to hire me. But that tells you ignorance is not bliss, and drunkenness is not either. I mean, when you're drunken, you're ignorant too. You think you're the greatest singer, you're the greatest dancer, you think you're the greatest everything when you're drunk, then find out later you're a big idiot. So, and I have stayed sober with my buddies to see how bad an idiot I was, and it was unbelievable how they acted. And I said, well, that's me. So I was ignorant to things that they told me to do. Were they lying to me? Yes. Did they know they were lying? No, they were ignorant too. It's just like a walking ignorant mass. I think that's what America's in right now. We're in an ignorant mass of fear and Terrorism. I think we have domestic terrorism right now. In our Constitution, people have swore an oath to be protectors of foreign or what? Domestic terrorism. Better search their heart on that one. And so I was ignorant. But then one day, a power worked on me. It's called the gospel of Christ. And all the things that I doubted and didn't understand, I became lost. I'm lost to anything. How many of you have ever really been lost hunting, let's say? You ever been in a cave lost? I have. I used to spelunk when I was a boy. And we'd turn our lights out and crawl a little bit and then get lost, turn back on, see where we could find our way out.
Oh, gosh.
Ignorance. I went hunting one day with my 2 dogs and on my grandmother and grandfather's land. I crossed the fence because I was chasing some squirrels and whatever. It was a rainy day and I got lost. Now I'm talking about really lost. Had no sun to look at, no direction to understand, really no moss to check the north side, And I was lost. And for the first time in my life, in all the hunting I ever did in the Ozark Mountains, I was lost. And I didn't know what to do. The dogs weren't lost. I said, well, maybe they'll go home. No, they didn't want to go home. They want to go hunting. And they'd have went anywhere I'd have went with them, but they wouldn't want to go home. And I said, oh my goodness, what do I do? So I sat down and I listened. In about 30 minutes, I heard a truck in the distance. I walked and I come to a dirt road. Uh-oh, now I got to decide which direction. So I look at the busiest side, tracks. And I walked out, and sure enough, I got to, I don't know if you've ever been to Harrison, Arkansas, about the Mystic Cavern there before you get to Dog Patch and Jasper. I walked out to the highway, and of course, I didn't know where I was at, and I walked home. Got my hiney ripped on that one. I was gone all day. But I was lost. People say they're saved. People read the Bible and say they're saved. But they ain't never really been lost. The power is not effectual to you until it is the power. I never get tired of hearing the gospel. I never get tired of saying the gospel. I never get tired of reading the gospel. Because it's the power that God got me by. Another man died for my sins. How good was that man? Oh my God. This man was so good that he gave himself up to the Father to be delivered to whatever it takes to save me. He gave himself that he might deliver me from this present evil world. So this world is never going to get anything better for us. The more you learn, the more evil you see. See, there are people around you who don't see the evilness going on around there. They're ignorant, totally ignorant to it, and they just think that this is a virus and you know, this is going to be the thing and whatever. But somebody brought it on. The evilness that's been brought on. What was the purpose in it? It was probably a purpose to kill a man. When I say kill him, I'm talking about politically. But while you're doing it, collateral damage don't matter. Collateral don't matter, folks. They don't care how many people die or how many people suffer or how many people fail, just as long as they get their way. The God of this world is that way with the Lord. He is totally willing to kill the Lord. He's totally willing to get into Judas and betray him. He's totally willing to get where God is mad enough at Israel that he will make them be cast away. But never forget there's still that remnant. And that remnant can never be done away by the God of the world. But in all of that, the God of this world doesn't know what the crucifixion of Christ will do for you. When Paul says in 1 Corinthians 15, he died for our sins. That's a mystery, folks. That he would die for our sins. Don't you understand? They didn't understand the suffering. The prophets wrote it down. They go, what does that mean? So they searched what? The what? The suffering of Christ. Or what manner of time? The glory that should follow. It wasn't revealed to them, except it was revealed to them to write down, but it wasn't revealed to them. You understand? Have you ever read Scripture and you didn't understand what it said? So, but was it revealed to you? You read it, but it wasn't revealed to you? You ever read a verse 50 times and then the 51st time you saw it? And you go, how did I miss that? Paige, how many times do you have the gospel preached to you in Mulberry? Don't it make you sick? Me too. I worked with Brother Moore for 3 years before I got saved. It makes you sick. How did I miss that? And it's called the simplicity of Christ. You know how you missed it? Because you wasn't ready. God knows when you're ready, and he'll throw that power on you like stink on a bug. And boy, when it hits you, it's like, how did I miss that? I'm forgiven. And then the joy is there. I heard Charles Stanley ruin Hebrews 6 one time. He said, now it says it's impossible. He said, you don't understand what it's saying. Let me enlighten you. Okay, Charles, enlighten me. That's what I was saying to him on the TV. I said, enlighten me, Charles. And he said, it doesn't mean what you think. He said, you can never renew the joy of the day you got saved. That ain't what that verse says at all. You can't renew it in Hebrews 6. It's impossible. Because if you fall away, you're damned. And that's doctrine of 1 John and other passages. Why did he want to make it say that? Because it's got to fit it into his doctrine. Folks, preachers got to make God's word fit into their doctrine. What did Israel become guilty of in Matthew 15? Turn there. I had you in Galatians 2. Now why? Or 3? Hold on to Galatians 3 just a second. Matthew 15. Sorry I'm jumping around, but maybe we need it. Matthew 15. Do you think the Pharisees and scribes worshipped? Yes. Don't people in every church around here and everywhere in the United States, don't they worship? Isn't it called a worship service? It's Bible studies at 10 and worship services at 11. I never could understand the difference, but whatever. So I guess we're on the worship side now since we started at 11, right? Okay. It's like blue jean worship service. Blue jean. I was going to wear my shorts today and really knock you down, but I didn't do it. Worship. So they worship, right? I got to get 2 verses with this. Matthew 15 and John chapter 4. In John chapter 4, verse 22, you worship you know not what. Isn't that a great verse? You worship you know not what. We know what we worship, for salvation is of the Jews. But the hour cometh, and now is, when true worshipers shall worship the Father in spirit and truth, for the Father seeketh such to what? God is a spirit, and they that worship him must worship him how? Okay, so it has to be a truth, obviously. Can the truth be changed into a lie? Yes. Been done all around you all the time. If I apply Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John to you, I've changed a truth of God into a lie on you. I mean, there's a lot of things that people have done in their life to claim. People get family trouble or they have health problems, and they'll read over there, and so they'll gather together and hold hands because they believe that they can pray and move a mountain. Right? Can they? He didn't tell you could. He didn't tell you, us, we could. But he did tell them. Well, then, does that weaken my faith that he don't? No, we walk by faith, not by sight. And we know that all things work together for good to them that love God, who are the called according to it, them that are who are the called according to his purpose. Then, if I can't move the mountain, God can, but maybe he don't want to move the mountain. The other guy said the other day told me, he said, have a blessed day. And I said, right now it ain't too blessed. He looked at me and said, what? And I said, look at America. And you know what to say. I said, I have all spiritual blessings in heavenly places, not down here. And I said, you got me on a bad day. No. I was sitting in Burger King in Springfield, Missouri before I was ever saved. I'd met Brother Moore when I was 15, but I was feeling my oats at this time. I was about 24 years old, 25. Had a terrible hangover. Ugh, I remember that one. And I was at Burger King. I was the only person in there. Sunday morning, BBC, right down the road, Baptist Bible College. Here comes 3 or 4 of them guys. They're going to witness to me. And they come in there and they start in on me. One guy comes over here and they gather and I'll go over there, I'll get him. Come over there and he looked at me and started in on me. You're going to hell, blah, blah, blah. And I said, boy, did you pick a bad day. I said, if you don't get out away from me, I am going to beat you all the way to the door. Oh! So I see him go back there and he said, persecuted for Christ's sake. I had just looked down there. I saw 3 different churches. And I said, where is God at today? Because they don't believe the same thing. What kind of God has 3 different buildings in sight and none of them believe the same thing? They're claiming they believe in the same God. What kind of knowledge is this? And the manager come over and he said, thank you. They bother people all the time. I thank you for running them off. I said, they just picked a bad day. Bad day. Not that I was anti-religious, folks. I just didn't want to be bothered. I didn't want you to tell me you're going to hellfire because you drink and you have long hair and a beard and all that stuff. And that ain't none of your business. People are so judgmental, it ain't none of your business, folks, about somebody else. We live in the land of the free right now, don't we? Our forefathers fought to keep us in a free country, and I love our free country, and I don't like what's going on in it. But all I can do is vote. And yes, I'm going to vote. I'm going there if I had to drag myself there. I'm not mailing it in. I want to make sure it gets on. But in John chapter 4, did they know what they were worshiping? Well, then I go back to Matthew 15 and watch. And I'll show you our apostle says the same thing. In Matthew 15, verse 1, then came to Jesus scribes and Pharisees, which were of Jerusalem, saying, why do thy disciples transgress the traditions of the elders? For they wash not their hands when they eat bread. You've got the creator of heaven and earth in front of you, which you should have known. Weren't they given a sign? Was he virgin born? Did John make him manifest by the baptism? Did he do signs and wonders? Isaiah chapter 8. Did he choose men to do signs and wonders? Isaiah 8. Should they be worried about washing hands? But you did see what it says. Thy disciples. They're not ours. Why aren't they thy disciples? He answered and said unto them, why do you also transgress the commandment of God by your what? Wouldn't it knock you down if you were in church most of your life and found out that all you did was tradition and that you transgressed the commandment of God with your tradition? What do you think, they liked him after this? Probably not. For God commanded, saying, honor thy father and thy mother. He that curseth father or mother, let him die the death. But you say, and that death probably be stoning. They ought to be stoned to death for not honoring father and mother. You know, if the law was truly in effect, it might straighten some people's minds out real quick, reckon? If you lined up the political leaders that were lying and shot them for treason, would things start straightening out a little bit? What is it in Turkey? They'll cut your hand off if you steal. But that kind of straighten you out. I mean, you wouldn't get it 2 times, would you? Because they know if you come in there a second time, you didn't steal with that hand, it's gone, so they're going to cut that one off too. And you ain't going to, it'll stump. They're going to call you Stumpy. Things would be straighter if they were biblical, right? The true greatness of Paul's writings is, vengeance is mine. I will repay, saith the Lord. Whatever man can do to you, they can't even touch what God's going to do to man. No way. Now watch. He said, but you say, whosoever shall say to his father or mother, it is a gift, by whatsoever thou mightest be profited by me, and honor not his father or his mother, he should be free. So could you pay your way out of transgression? Yeah, you can. Can you pay your way out in the Catholic Church?
Yeah.
By the way, if you was in let's say a church, I don't care what kind, Baptist, Methodist, Presbyterian, Catholic, they keep a ledger of who gives. Who would be honored more in that church? The one that pays more, right? Would a preacher stand up in a church and he's got George sitting there, and George is a big contributor, whatever that word is, contribution, in the church, would he just want to nail him every week preaching on him? So he'd kind of want George to be happy with the message, wouldn't he? So he would itch his ears. Are you with me? Preachers itch people's ears and scratch it and fondle it and tell them what a good deal they're doing. Preach hellfire and brimstone, but they tell them, you'll be all right if you just walk the aisle, give your life to Christ, turn from your sins. And if you have by some way backslidden, come back. And they'll have the song for it, right? Right, they have the song, come to Jesus. Come back. Verse 7, is Jesus handling them kindly?
No.
You hypocrites. Well, did Isaiah prophet of you say, this people draweth nigh unto me with their mouth, and honoreth me with their lips, but what is it?
Their hearts
But in vain you do worship me, teaching for doctrines the commandments of men. There's the worship. People worship God, they say. Romans chapter 10. Now, were the Israelites, the seed of Abraham, specifically told what to do?
Yes.
How are they going to get around it? How are they going to make themselves feel like they're all right?
Change the rules.
Tradition.
Yeah.
They got the priests first get polluted. The priests don't do what they were told to do. And they don't teach the law. Boy, when you get back and look in the Old Testament, the young king that went into office, and the temple was in bad shape, and he said, do we have enough money in the coffer to fix it? He said, oh my God, we're just full of money. Because see, they had been continually taking care of their offerings, but let the temple go to poop. And he says, well, I want you to go in there, hire the men, and fix all the breaches in the wall. Anything needed, get it done. So the priest decides to go in there while they're working. He's looking around, and he looked at that, and he seen this book laying there. And he picks up the book and brushes the dust off it and reads it. Oh, my God. This is the book of the law. How many of you ever read the Ten Commandments? How many of you broke any? you didn't, you're lying. Did you see how severe they really are in life? Most every one of them is what people like to break. It's just a summation of this is what you want to break. Don't do it. And he read it and he goes, uh-oh. And so he goes to the king. He said, we got a problem. Well, what's the problem? Is the money low? No, we got plenty of money. I found the book. I mean, it's almost comical. I found the book. Well, what have you been worshiping? The tradition of men. It's the only way they could get around their conscience and everything else. They bought their way through it. Isn't that what people do? If you've really been bad that week, the pastor really knows you're going to get some money. Right? Because your conscience is saying, man, I better do something about this. Lord, accept my sacrifice. And the pastor sees that big check, and the next week he's ready to shake your hand. We're glad you're here. But you don't really get that because I don't know what you give. I never look, so I'm going to hag on you all I want. And rag on you, and if you're in a good mood, I'll rag on you. If you're in a bad mood, I'll rag on you. No. I'm glad to see you. But my love for you is not based on how much you give. My love on you is based on, do you believe the same Lord I do? Do you trust the same Lord I do? And do you believe this book? I kind of not did everything I wanted to do. But I hope we can learn Abraham's seed, and I'll probably next week do some more on it. But they're told exactly what to do. What's amazing is we're told what we don't have to do. We're told what he already did. And that we can trust it. He'll seal us, never forsake us. And one day we get to go see God and all that he's ever made. Just get one night, and when the stars are out, lay down on your back out there and go, oh my goodness. We'll see it all. And furthermore, it's mine. Isn't that a great message?